Waiting for you, sir. I was waiting for you. Not at all, because you are a valued friend that's waited for you. Esteemed senior colleague, Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, Mr. Sharan, Mr. B.B. Singh, esteemed colleagues, friends, it's a great pleasure to be here in the afternoon to speak on the occasion of Greentech Award function. The introducer very happily narrated about my experiences, my professional qualifications, but she forgot one thing. I'm basically a banker and enjoy being called a former banker because I spent the best part of my youth in banking for 23 long years. I became a teacher only after that. And I worked for the syndicate bank, took banking to unbanked territories the first 7 years of my life, to places which are exotic, more exotic than Goa, both Lakshadweep and Andamans, where banking was unheard of in the 70s. I was the first banker to go to both these places and open branches. And spending 7 years in such remote places where you don't have basic living facilities 40 years ago was a great challenge and opportunity. I always cherished that, and it's a great memory down the line. Thank you for a wonderful introduction. I'm no expert in corporate management, but having spent last 20 plus years in academic institutions, the National Institute of Banking, the National University of Educational Planning and Administration, the Indira Gandhi National Open University, and currently with the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, I've had the pleasure of being in close proximity to education, finance, and training programs. I met Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee when I was working in the National University of Education way back in '96, when he used to be Joint Secretary looking after planning in the ministry. And our relations go back to last 17 years. And I was pleasantly surprised when he invited me on my retirement from IGNU to come and join him. And here I am, representing the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, the National Center for Responsible Corporate Governance. You're all experienced academics, administrators, practitioners in management, and I don't have to explain to you the concepts of corporate governance, what principles govern the corporate governance sector, and how the insider model and outsider model have worked well in some context in India or wreaked havoc in many other contexts in India. One basic principle that all of us have to understand is that good governance, it just cannot be imposed. Whether it is in a commercial organization, it is in a bank, in a government setup, or a training institution, or a management setup, good governance cannot be imposed from the top. It must emerge from a changed social, cultural level to a level of committed directors and down to the workforce. If this is not happening in many contexts, that is one of the major reasons for the poor performance of corporate sector in this country. We have seen successful corporates functioning well, suddenly going down the drain for reasons unexplained, or sudden problems cropping up in institutions which are reckoned as finest institutions. You're all practitioners of HR. Dr. Jacob will vouch me. A year back, there was a labor trouble in Maruti factory near Gurgaon. Maruti is reckoned as one of the best industries in the country. not only from the production point of view, the profit point of view, and the growth point of view, but also from the IR point of view. But what happened there was tragic. A personnel manager, a senior personnel manager, was brutally murdered by their own employee. It was a shocker to the management and the industry as a whole. The state government woke up to the fault. They wanted to find out what actually went wrong. The Haryana government appointed a high-level inquiry committee to look into the issues and suggest remedial action. A very close friend of mine, a batchmate of Dr. Chatterjee, Mr. Prasanna Kumar, who was Additional Chief Secretary of the State, was a member of this committee. I have a long relation with him. He told me it was a virtual breakdown of HR management in that factory which led to this problem. There is absolutely no communication between the management and factory workers. There was a thought, there was a thinking and a talk that the factory, part of the factory growth plan was planning to shift to Gujarat, where the government of Gujarat was planning to give them more land. And that is going to affect the employment prospects potential of Haryana. And half the workforce in Haryana plant would be shifted out to Gujarat. This was the first major incident where the management did not try to convince the workforce that this is not true. Of course, there was a plan to open another plant in Gujarat. That is a different story altogether. But there was a break in communication. And that break in communication resulted in corner meetings, in corner talk, friction, tension, ultimately leading to the death of a very senior personnel officer, a deputy general manager level, who was totally innocent. He was killed. This takes us to one lesson, as Dr. Chatterjee put it earlier in his remarks. HR is not all about recruitment, training, positioning, and all that. It is all part of it, all right, accepted. We all have done it. But HR is all about human beings. If you don't have human beings, if you don't treat them well, if down the line the communication channels are not open to them, if management at a higher level do not inform the workforce, the officers, employees about the prospects of the company, about the potential, about the plan, the company cannot function. Transparency in action is essential. And I would like to conclude that point by stating, once again, reiterating that good governance cannot be imposed. It has to be, there has been ethos. It has to be culturally imbibed and developed in the company.